Good morning. Happy daylight savings time. I'm here with some actual breaking news. Like these three stories were the last story. Really, is what the breaking news segment actually is about. Because the story that's at the end of this uh, news break took place yesterday. So we're going to talk about it after we talk about the beginning of the story. I'm going to start with probably the least important story in this newscast because it's Ed Sheeran. So Ed Sheeran's in court currently in regards to a plagiarism lawsuit. The interesting thing about it is that and I will say this from the beginning. I'm of the opinion that Ed Sheeran is becoming pop music's piggyback because he has so many copyright lawsuits where if you've just got like a smidgen, like if you can come to court with like just get it in the court, he'll probably settle. The current lawsuit concerns his song "Shape of You" versus this guy called, and let me look at to make sure I say the guy's name right because I was just looking at this. Let me go back. I want to make sure I got his name right. It's Sammy Switch. Sammy Switch put out the song called "Oh Why." I'm going to include both of the videos in the description to this video. I'm also going to include this guy I discovered, David Bennett Piano, who actually goes over a lot of situations like this where he covers like original songs and other songs that there have lawsuits on them or been ripped off by other artists. It's actually his David Bennett Piano. His channel is actually really interesting. So the OY controversy is literally about a word. So I took the time this morning to listen to a majority of both songs, and Sammy Switch's song with his and in his song his chorus says OY WHY. This is important. This is important to the context of why they're in court. His chorus is very slowed down. It's just slow, and they're saying two different words, right? So we're not even talking about the same word. They're in similar places in the song, but the speed is different. Like the songs are markedly different. But because Ed Sheeran has had a whole history of lifting other people's songs, like with his whole controversy with TLC and No Scrubs, which he even admitted, he admitted that he wanted to put the No Scrubs hook in his song and just did it. He ends up giving them credit later, and so I guess they get some of the royalty money from it. There are other artists, some of whom are like maybe up and coming artists like this guy, and they're saying, well, our songs sound similar, so he stole them because he has a history of stealing other people's stuff or crediting writers after he's made money off of it. It would be different if when you listen to both songs that he took your song if Ed Sheeran isn't saying "oh, I," like the letter I. But Y and I sound similar. And it's like David Bennett was saying in his video, there are a bunch of there are a bunch of songs and time signatures, like a bunch of building blocks of songs that just exist. And you can't just say because you used it that it's yours. Like you can't copyright yellow, the color yellow. Or you can't copyright a triangle. Triangles just exist. Yellow's just there. You can't just say, like, Coldplay can't copyright the color yellow just because they wrote the song Yellow. The The funniest thing that David Bennett mentions in his video is the Shaggy situation. So Ed Sheeran sort of cribs "It Wasn't Me" by Shaggy, and he credits the songwriters of Shaggy's song in his song. The funny thing about it is that David Bennett talks about is that Shaggy cribbed a whole other artist. So Ed Sheeran had to credit that dude or those guys, even though he didn't even use any elements of what they did in his song. That's part of the reason why this Ed Sheeran thing is in court. Then we move to some little surprising news. I hate that little sound over there. That I wasn't even expecting it. I gotta credit Billboard for this one. Wayne Kramer says that Kesha, Tom Morello inspired the first new MC5 album in 51 years. That's right. The MC5, like the actual MC5, is putting out a new record over a half century after they put out a record. They ran out of gas, it says according to Billboard, in 1972. So five decades after they split up, Wayne Kramer's putting together the Motor City 5, the MC5. They're going to have, he announced this on March 9th. They're going to have 2 new singles and a national tour. This is on the heels of their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nomination. The new songs Heavy Lifting and Edge of the Switchblade. Somebody don't tell what Jay White about that song. Jay White will probably want to use it for instrument music if it's good, which actually would be kind of cool. And it's going to feature the only other surviving member of the original of the MC5, Dennis Thompson, getting back behind the drum set. It's going to come out sometime in October. Kramer says the album was influenced and worked on by a number of artists, one being Kramer's friend Kesha, who joined him for a performance of the MC5 track Miss X in January. We're still quoting the article. Though the world looks very different from the one the MC5 left in the 70s, the themes explored then by the famously anti-establishment musicians carry over to today's landscape. And he's talking about the polarization of the last 5 years, and everybody does their anti-Trump thing. But he's going back. Irony is, here's something I didn't know. So they formed their band in Lincoln Park, Michigan. With Rob Tyner, Fred Smith, Pat Burrows, and Bob Gaspar back in the 60s. And he's bringing them back. So I think that's pretty cool. This is probably... It can't be done now, which is a tragedy. The thing I'm going to start talking about can't be done now, because John Lennon's dead, George Harrison is gone. There was all this talk before John Lennon's death there was going to be a Beatles reunion, and in the weeks before John was killed, and this has been corroborated by several interviews by Paul McCartney, like that him and John had gotten back together to writing before he was killed. And I know he had done some work with Ringo. Like, it could have happened if not for the tragedy. So I think it's cool that the MC5 are actually getting back together, because not just because it would be relevant, but I'm all for, especially since there's only 2 of them left, like, go ahead and do one last tour before you can't do it anymore. So that's the MC5 story. The story that I absolutely wanted to cover, and the story that actually got me to doing this breaking news break, is a story that happened late yesterday. Ooh. This is a tough one. I'm going to read it from Billboard. The phrase Isaac Slade announces departure from the band. Quote, I know it's been pretty quiet on the band front for a long time, but I want to let everybody know that I'm stepping down from the fray. Unquote, the frontman wrote. So Isaac Slade has been, I mean, he's the sound, he sounds like the Fray. He's their lead singer. He announced it on social media yesterday. He says in a post on Instagram, quote, I let the guys know 5 or 6 years ago that I was getting ready to call it. That I was going to start my long exit ramp, and now it's finally time. And it's all good. I wish those guys the best in whatever they do next. I'm ready to start dreaming up what it is that I'm going to do with the rest of my life, my little life on Earth, along with my incredible wife and our 2 miracles of kids, unquote. Their most recent studio album was Helios, which was released 8 years ago, and it debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200 in 2014. Their breakthrough album was How to Save a Life, which launched the top 10 hits, The Eponymous Lame, How to Save a Life, and Over My Head Cable Car, which peaked at 14 on the Billboard 200. They're still doing their upcoming concert on May 14th in Waukegan, Illinois. So I guess they're in the midst of doing some kind of small tour, and I don't know if the Waukegan show is going to be their last show. And that band apparently has been around or been together for, I guess now, I guess it's been 20 years. It's been close to 20 years. I think I got introduced to that band like I got introduced to a bunch of bands. This is another thing I guess I have to thank my friend Abby for. A bunch of us used to get together and watch Grey's Anatomy. So, and the Fray was a band amongst a bunch of bands that I got exposed to during watching that show. And I have to give that show credit. That show was kind of innovative in putting music within a show, and it became the blueprint because a lot of other shows try to do it now. A lot of CW shows do it, like Vampire Diaries was a great example, but I think Legacies now subtly tries to do it. What other shows that do it, that used to do it? Where you hear and what it is when you hear the lyric of a song. Like some shows just play the melody of a song, like, what song is that? And you have to try to pause and Shazam it real quick. In a lot of shows now, especially if you have the closed caption on, it'll give you the title of the song and you go look it up, but it'll play it in the background and you're like, whoa. And especially with a show like Grey's Anatomy that's going to end up in heavy syndication, people are going to be discovering the music from those shows long after the bands are even a memory. It's interesting. I'm very interested to see what the Fray does next. I think they came along at an interesting time in music where people, I guess, were kind of looking for that coffee house rock thing, and that's kind of what the Fray did in a lot of ways. Their albums are really good, and go back and check it out. So I'm going to link the David Bennett piano Ed Sheeran thing in the description box of this video. I'm also going to link the Sammy Switch and Shape of You videos that I found in the description box of this video. And it's Sunday, so we're going to try to do something else today. We're going to try to maybe get one more thing shot today. But I wanted to do this quick, not quick, news break out there because the Fray news just happened last night. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later.